All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart. Here. Councilwoman Hudax, absent. Supervisor Hay.
Here. Electronic devices, if you have any, please put them on vibrate, exit in the front and the rear. First item on, we have to come out of the executive session. Make a motion to come out of the executive session. No action was taken.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, presentation. First up will be Putnam County Cell Tower, the Kern Building. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thanks, Supervisor. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Bruce, I know you just introduced yourself to the audience, sir.
Yeah, my name is Bruce Walker. I'm the Deputy County Executive for Putnam County.
Thank you.
I come tonight before you just to bring you up to speed on the cell tower that we're placing over at the Kern Building. And just at a very high level, over the last few years, the number of organizations within the county were working through a radio committee that was chaired by Tom Lannon, who's here tonight as well. It had members of the local government as well as some of the emergency services personnel throughout the county. They developed through this radio committee a strategy based on evaluations of where there were dead spots through the county for our emergency services personnel as well as for the constituents that use the 911 services. And then based on that evaluation, the strategy basically incorporated mechanisms and opportunities to basically fill those gaps. Through the addition of additional radio frequencies. And that predicated the need for us to take a look at the microwave system, which is the backbone of the communication system within the county. It goes throughout the entire county. That being said, we put that comprehensive plan together, basically a Homeland Security interoperability plan to enable communication for both the public to be able to call in through 911 as well as our emergency service responders to be able to utilize the radio frequencies as well. That being said, we applied for a grant a couple of years ago. First, we actually applied about, 3 years ago, didn't get that grant. We subsequently applied again to Homeland Security. We did get the grant that time. And last year, we began in earnest to build out that plan, working through various committee meetings at the legislature and getting any feedback we could from anybody who attended those. So one of the locations which impacts the town of Southeast is the Kern Building, which is a county-owned property where we have our Department of Motor Vehicles as well as our Department of Health, and Cornell Cooperative Extension is actually housed at that location as well. We basically chose that site for a number of reasons. The ownership in the property affords us tremendous capability of control over it, particularly on a physical security perspective, as well as some of the monitoring capabilities because we own the property that it's part of. The site is also an area that we do regular patrols with our Sheriff's Department, which just facilitates us having an additional layer of protection. And our existing fiber network is also housed there, so it enables us to tie our microwave system into the fiber optic system within the county. And given the commercial corridor and the existence of existing towers there, as well as the high voltage transmission lines, seemed like a perfect location. So we continued down the path, working in a private-public partnership with Homeland Towers, and we reached, just yesterday, signed the contract to continue to move forward. And now we're putting together site plans with our Department of Health as well as our Highway Department.
Okay.
All right.
Some of the major concerns, Bruce, is we're like the last one to know. I know you did try to come back here, I guess, back in September, October.
Right.
And didn't get here, but by then we pretty much heard it from numerous sources, newspaper and everything. And if there's a better way in the future, like communications, I know we're hearing and reading a lot in the paper about a sewer system coming in possibly from Connecticut. The town is unaware. We have legislators that may or may not be aware. There's a concern by the public. the concerns I've heard about the location of this one is the 180-foot height. I mean, that's
Yep.
really unusual.
It's actually not. It's pretty
Well, for
standard.
this town, it is, so.
But, well, I don't know whether it is or isn't in the town, but the reason it's 180 feet is because the microwave technology is unlike radio frequency. So it's a point-to-point communication, meaning you have to have line of sight between one microwave dish and the other microwave dish. So getting up above everything is why you go 180 feet, because it enables us to be able to tie into the other microwave dishes that we need to make the backbone of the fiber network, or the microwave network.
Now, I was on the legislature for 19 years, and there was many times that they came in front of us with the bed spot, but it was never mentioned to be here in this town of Southeast, but over in Phillipstown.
Actually, there's numerous dead spots throughout the entire county. So
Now, when you say a dead spot, is it like a small radius of an area or a very large radius of area? Because Phillipstown was always number one.
it varies throughout the county. Cold Spring is probably the worst. I mean, we've gone through and we have maps of all the different locations in the county. It was put together by the radio committee over the last several years. And, you know, part of the process is identifying those and trying to fill the gaps. It won't be 100% when we're done, but it'll be significantly better than what we have today.
Okay, so basically, the worst area in the county is not the town of Southeast, but elsewhere. Is there one planned for there?
That's part of the project. Yep.
Has it been selected? Because I understand there's only 2 selected sites thus far?
There's 4 that have been identified that we approached the legislature with. And just, you know, with regard to not knowing about it, there were, I don't even know how many public meetings that we had at the legislature level through physical services regarding it, which are publicly noticed meetings with the information that the cell towers would be approved for secret and all the things associated with that. So,
Well, again, that's how we learned about it, but, you know, communication is usually between governments is a little bit better. So all I'm asking in the future, like another rumor we were hearing recently now is out by Pugsley Road, the 10 acres that was supposed to go to the Humane Society is now become a range for the county possibly?
we just issued a RFI for a gun range, that's correct.
Okay, and I only heard about that maybe a week ago.
It's,
So
it's an RFI, it's not an RFP.
Well,
It's a request for information.
okay, but there's something that's being
So,
planned.
so until we have the information, it's premature to come tell you I'm putting a gun range there if we don't know that we're doing it. We don't have legislative approval. We haven't issued an RFP. We're trying to get information as to the viability of a gun range in that site.
Okay. No, I just understand there's, you know, the.
If
what's
I had,
going on.
unfortunately, if I had to come here and tell you about every idea we had,
No, no, we're
you and
not-
I would just have to spend the day in the chambers. And,
Well-
but I understand that. And listen, we can do that, and I'll come talk to you about the sewage treatment plant that we're talking about, which again is not in Southeast. We're using or attempting to use if it's viable. There's some federal issues that we're trying to work through. And again, once the viability has been proven that we can do it, until then, it's just premature to have the discussion.
Okay, the only thing is, we hear more outside, and when they ask us as a board or whatever, we really don't have any idea.
Sure. No, that's, and we can improve the communication. That's fine.
Anyone else here?
I have a lot of questions.
Well, you can't go.
Okay.
Edwin, you have anything?
Kevin?
No, just being a former police officer, I know how important radio communications is, and the town I worked in, we had a lot of dead spots, especially in apartment buildings, and it's imperative in this day and age that law enforcement and fire departments have the best radio communications possible. So we don't have a vote in the matter, but I don't have a problem with it, having the antenna there, and especially you're gonna rent out some space to cell phone antenna providers too, I understand?
Well, we won't rent it out, but Homeland Towers will.
They will,
Right.
okay, so.
There will be revenue generated
Yes.
for the
Yep,
county?
the way the contract's set up is it's $2,000 rent or 30% of the revenue, whichever's greater.
Okay.
And that money is utilized to help offset the cost of the other towers that we do rent on.
Okay.
I mean, maybe a little premature, but our highway department has a two-way radio system. I'm wondering if there's any way they could get their antenna on.
Well, it's, that's the bigger plan with, once you get the radio frequencies up and running,
Okay.
standardizing across, all of the departments that utilize the radio frequencies.
Okay, Lynn,
Okay.
leave the best to last.
Thanks, Tony. If line of sight is necessary for these towers, and it is, as I understand it, and that's for the microwave?
For the microwave component.
Okay.
Mhm.
Southeast is by far the tallest at 180 feet. We allow the most we have in town is 130, and they got a variance for that. It's usually 125. But if line of sight is necessary, and Mayapack and Putnam Valley are on hold right now, correct?
They're going to be going to the legislature in March, yep.
Okay, but why are you going ahead with this when there is nothing planned for Phillipstown, right?
No, there is.
Where in Phillipstown? Because I heard
We
only.
haven't cited the location in Phillipstown because we're trying to build the microwave. The microwave backbone is the base component to get all the other things done. If you don't have a microwave backbone, then we're not going to be able to transport the information that needs to then drop down and be promulgated via radio frequency.
Well, then, would that mean you wouldn't, would it be necessary then in Southeast if it can't be countywide? I'm a little confused.
I don't understand the question.
Well, if you don't have a site yet in Phillipstown,
Right?
and you have one the only two that are approved so far as I know, and both are, one's on the southeast border at the Emergency Services Building, and one is at the Kern Building.
That's correct.
What good will those two do unless the other ones go in?
They do quite a bit, actually. So it's not, the microwave system is a system. It's an integration of a number of towers that work together to be able to provide the capability for communication in multiple paths. So the addition of these two towers provide us additional capability for that communication. It's not independent of Phillipstown, but it provides benefit even if Phillipstown's tower is not it, which is why we can stage the towers the way we are, where these two are going in, and then we'll be working through the other two, the one at the airport property in Mayapack, as well as the Putnam Valley Senior Center.
Okay, and why were they, I was not clear because I did speak about I went to several meetings about this, and I wasn't clear why Putnam Valley and the golf course, actually, why they were put in abeyance, and we questioned Southeast, but you went ahead with Southeast and you went ahead with Carmel. Why, can you explain that?
Sure. The airport property, so we met with the town of Carmel, based on their, some of the input that they had gotten from the legislative meetings. We went there, and the challenge we had there was properly siting it on the property. So we have a 200-plus acre piece of property in the golf course, and we wanted to be able to site it in the best location for the residents, as well as for the capability for us to be able to use it as a microwave, tower. And so there was some discussion, and we went back to our legislature, who has to approve these, as to where it was sitting on the property. So effectively, what we've done is moved it about 150 feet, or 300, I think it's 300 feet? What did it end up moving? 300?
A little less than 300.
A little less than 300 feet away from where it was, but it's still going on the airport property.
Okay, and the neighbors there are fine with that so far?
We had one person that, had come to the meeting and voiced concern, but from where they are, they're actually, it's almost equidistant from all of the residences that are around the golf course.
Okay, because there were quite a few at the meeting I attended. And what about at the Putnam Valley Senior Center?
Our intent is still today to put it at the senior center. We had
So
been
they haven't-
asked by Supervisor Oliverio
Right.
to take a look at Piano Mountain and another piece of property with Granite Mountain. We did take a look at those. We did the evaluations on whether or not they were viable. There were lots of challenges with both of those other pieces of property, so we're back to Putnam Valley.
Okay. And is security in general, is that a problem? That's why these are good, you mentioned that and I never heard that before.
It's a very significant problem.
Okay, so other towers are also in jeopardy?
We're building a security system for all of our towers.
Okay, all right. And you haven't identified a spot in Phillipstown? I just want to be clear on that.
We've been looking at actually 2 or 3 different sites over there. They're on private property, so we have to be able to negotiate with the people who have it. We don't have any property over there that we can utilize effectively that works, that isn't, and as you well know, most of that area is down low. So you have to get property that is viable enough to be able to tie into the microwave piece.
And what about Kent? Same thing? Or?
No, we don't need to do that. We're actually going to be tying into the tower, which actually I think is, so it's actually right on the border of Patterson, but that's 260 feet, that tower.
Okay.
Is that the one at Mount Ingham?
It's on 292.
Okay.
Okay.
Is Mount Ingham any part of this?
Yes,
Okay.
Oh, so Mount Ingham is going to have or already has one?
it already has one now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it would be really important if, since we're not sharing revenue, if we could get some help for our highway department and other things. I think it would be a nice accommodation to make, because this will be able to be seen by I think folks in Lake Tenetta and places like that. So I also would say that I think it is really important. I really don't think you'd be locked in a closet with Tony for the day if the,
Don't bet on it.
well, maybe, but I just think even when you're starting to plan things, if it's more, I mean, I watched a meeting with the county executive and Mayor Boughton, and I think you were there too, that was on the Danbury website, so I kept up with it that way. But I would say it's really important to engage the town where you get to put in what you want without any say-so from your elected, the elected officials. So I would take issue with that. I think it's really important that when things are progressing, and I think you could learn a lot too. I mean, we'd learn from you what's going in, and you'd learn from us
Sure.
how viable it is and if people really want it or need it. And I think the communication has not been good, and it might be on our side as well, but I would really strongly suggest this. I know I called the county executive about it, and we had a pretty productive conversation, but I didn't extract any promises, and I think this town board would be like to be a lot more involved. Our constituents ask us, and I think that they should be, and I think it's really important for them. So, thank you.
Anyone from the public, any questions? Okay, Bruce and your team.
Great,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Good to see some
Good
of
night.
you. and-
Thank you for coming.
Thanks. Okay, Jill Riccio, President, Putnam County Economic Development Corporation. Again, thank you for coming this evening, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for including me in tonight's agenda. As you know, I'm Jill Verricchio, president of the EDC. This organization is a private, public 501c6, and it celebrated its 20th anniversary in 2016. And on behalf of my board and myself, I'm here to extend a thank you. In economic development terms, especially in this glorious Hudson Valley, you hear about the assets. We all have these assets in the valley, the 4 R's. And in Putnam, we can go a little bit beyond the 4 traditional R's, the roads, the rail, the river, nearby runways, with our reservoirs, rail trails, and remarkable business and government leaders committed to what I call thoughtful economic development. I'm here to applaud you. You do the work, you make it happen on behalf of your constituents and Putnam County. As a reminder, the EDC was formed in 1994 as a joint venture with the Cornell Cooperative, the Putnam Planning Department, and the county legislative body. They completed an extensive survey about the businesses here, specifically about business retention, expansion, and within 2 years, this organization was formed. So what's the mission? It's remaining the same. We're the primary facilitator connecting local resources with opportunities to deliver economic growth. We work to cultivate and expand existing businesses as well as promote commercial real estate to attract new business. We market the assets, proximity, they say location, location, location. Proximity, our transit links, infrastructure, and a highly skilled workforce. We advocate for development projects among the municipalities and planning boards to ensure the growth of our county's tax base. We educate and assist local nonprofits, small businesses, and municipalities with incentives and grant programs from New York State, the various utilities, and other funding sources. And we strive for a balanced growth throughout the county to meet the needs of a very broad audience. And tonight I'm here to celebrate, as we say, moving collectively into the 21st century, to thank you all for your involvement and dedication to bring economic vitality to Putnam. And as a reminder, and I do have a couple of gifts for you, but I also have a report, and I might have given this to you, Tony, when we first met, but this was developed in 2014, and it's pretty accurate. It comes from the combination of the Financial Planning Department and the Real Property Office. And it's established the fact that the commercial sector contributes more to a municipality's budget revenue than it uses in municipal services. The study makes the argument indisputably. The well-being of our schools, our municipal services, and the quality of life for our residents are directly tied to the commercial sector that pays taxes here. The total numbers represent the property taxes paid on each parcel of land owned by a resident or commercial entity. I'm going to leave this with you. I have the PDF if you would like me to send it to you, and I tagged the actual page so you can share with regards to the fact about how much is contributed through commercial taxpayers of the town of Southeast represent 6% of all the parcels, and they pay 30% of the total taxes. So tonight, in addition to the presentation, I have some gifts. You can hang this on some wall somewhere, hopefully. One for each of you. I have a nifty table that has a couple of combinations.
You know we can't accept gifts.
Well, if it's less than $75.
No.
It's got a
Antenna for cell tower?
Yeah.
No, it has a level, so we're on the level, and we can also have, if you want to write yourself a note, a little bit of thing that comes out and you can write on it. Got one for everybody, and I have a lapel pin, which I hope somebody gets to wear and feel pride in affiliated with the Putnam County Economic.
We knew you were gonna bring all these gifts, we'd had you earlier.
I can work the food, right? But here you go, starting with you, there you go.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
You can have too much money in your budget with all these things.
Yeah.
Let's use my budget this year, huh?
How'd you afford this then?
Take one for Liz.
The missing person, yeah. Anyway, any questions, any feedback, thoughts?
Yes, I do.
Oh, good.
Of course. When you're talking about the benefits and tax benefits, but I will say, as I always say, we do not share sales tax, so.
I've been hearing that regularly from you and Phillipstown.
Okay, and so what happens is, when you talk about the benefits, a lot of the benefits go to the county, and actually our taxes are lower than our county taxes, and it's one of the few towns that is in Putnam. So, we do get the traffic, we do have, get to do the road repair, et cetera. So I don't think the picture's quite as rosy for us, because our constituents have to sit in more traffic, and
Yeah.
we have to pay for road repair.
Yeah,
So,
no, I hear you. And you know, this isn't uncommon. And being new, I've been here about 15 months, it's a common issue between the two municipalities, and I've been pressing to get the information from, and there's a report I've requested just to understand, because I was, told where the money gets sort of, we pay for and we make whole. There's none of these properties that are going to be left for the municipality to pay if somebody's in foreclosure. So there's a rationale that I understand, but I can certainly appreciate your scenario. I live personally, I don't know if anybody cares, I live in Orange County, and we have, I've followed that story, because in Orange County, they have the Woodbury Common,
right.
entity, and that's a quite robust experience.
But I think in Southeast, we'd be, some of us would be a little more open to development, commercial development, if the county was willing to share sales tax. And I understand, I think they were up 9%, I just read, this year.
Because of the fuel, yeah.
But it is problematic. It's not all rosy when you're managing the town, when we're running the town.
Right, no, I'm trying to be a realist, but trying to bring some goodwill and some gesture that we are vigorous in looking at how to bring opportunities to the community. I do get outside site selectors looking for parcels. I'm not a broker, real estate agent, but I do push the information and try to bring opportunities, and I don't know, I send it to you, Tony, on occasion. So that information is getting out there. We also have a meeting that, we try to talk about issues, and I know Mr. Cullen is aware of it, and that was one of the meeting topics that we discussed last time.
And does the EDC, are you plugged into this proposed sewer line from Danbury, or do you have nothing at all to do with that?
Correct, latter.
Okay.
You said none?
What?
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
The latter. She said, am I plugged into it?
And no.
It's coming from
Right.
Danbury and the county
I
executive's
just
office.
thought maybe you'd shed more light, but you can't, so.
That's,
Okay.
oh, well, I guess Mary
You same
Ellen
with the
Odell-
shoot, you can't tell us about the shooting range either then, so.
Sorry,
okay.
no.
All right. I'll just have to be happy with my tape measure. Thank you.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you very much. Have a
Okay,
good night.
thank you for coming.
Yep.
You got tape measures too? Wow. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, next up will be a public hearing for the expansion of Blackberry Sewer District. Michael, before you come up, let me just explain to the public briefly what some of this is about. Not yet. Can they see my password? No. Okay. Make a motion to open the public hearing.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, for those of you in the audience, hopefully all you know where Blackberry Hill is. It's in town of Southeast. I call it North Brewster Road, there's probably other names for it, but right here, let's see where, no, that's the wrong one. Time out. That's the one. This here is the road, the VFW is down here. You go under the bridge there, and you start to go up the hill, and this road goes into the plant. Right there is the plant. That's the Blackberry Hill Sewer Plant. The house that's requesting this is located right there. So what has to happen is a line will have to be put in from here, going along the roadway, to this house, exactly where it's going from their property. We don't know that. I don't know if they know that until.
Two houses. It's two houses.
There's
One
only
lot,
house.
two houses.
Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so that line is gonna go from there to there. And just so you know, if you have a better feel for the area, this is the house in particular. So next time you're coming up from under the bridge on the right-hand side, that's the house that's making this application. The application's requesting, again, to be connected to the sewer district. The improvements proposed are installation of piping, mains, pumping, and lift station to connect the premises with the sewer treatment plant and infrastructure currently serving the Blackberry Sewer District. The proposed to be expected for the improvement is $40,000. That will not be borne by anyone other than the person making this application. The residents of Blackberry Hill will not share in one penny of that. That's up to the applicant to make that contribution. Solely borne, again, by the applicant, petitioner in this case, and no part which shall be borne by the people of the district itself. The estimated cost the petitioner to hook up or connect the existing Blackberry sewer and associated improvements is $1,900. There's 2 homes on that site, or 2 structures, so it'll be $1,900 per structure. So you're looking at $40,000 for the mains, and then when they connect, they will be paying $1,900. The estimated cost of the said district to a typical property owner in Blackberry Hill is $1,064 per year. So they're paying a little bit more. They've come in long after the game, and that was what we determined to be a fair price for them to make the connection. Some people are going to say, do we have the capacity there to provide them with that service? And the answer is yes. The New York City DEP Speedies permit is for 74,700 gallons per day, and Blackberry Hill on average uses around 58,956 gallons per day. So you're looking at 75,000 gallons per day rounded, and rounded 59,000. So there's ample capacity for this connection. And with that, I'll let you now come up to speak. I just want to give the public an idea where it was and quick overview.
I really don't have too much to add, but I'll answer any questions if the board members have any. or
Well, it's a public
members of the
hearing.
public If they,
Yep.
they have any.
Okay. Anyone from the public here to speak to this evening? We did get at least one email. We responded to that person, and we basically provided them with the letter that you provided the town with all the particulars, and he wrote back thanking us for information. He did make a comment that the legal ease that we use, and I think his confusion was the same as mine before I got into politics. You say whereas and resolve.
Yeah.
Why don't you just come out and ask the question instead of going through all that? So,
You know, we follow a form petition, and it could be in in plain English, but it's not intended to be confusing in any way. Unfortunately, it is sometimes, but I think you have the gist. The only comment I have is to the 2 houses is that the reason why we're asking for both to be connected is the original house does have a pre-existing non-conforming septic system that was installed at the time of the construction of the original house, which is the one on the left. That's a approximately 800 square foot house. We figured, given the age of that septic system, it would be appropriate to, not just the age, but also, if you see where the wooden fence is, that's where we believe the location is, just on the other side of that fence. It's in close proximity to a wet area on the property, which is an area that is mostly consists of runoff from the highway, but does connect to the wetland across the street.
Do you have any idea, have you done any engineering? Do you have an idea how that pipe is gonna actually get to that property? If I put
Yes.
that picture up there? Can you-
So we've asked Bibbo Associates to analyze the construction between the house and the nearest,
Would you mind, can you go,
Yeah,
can
I
you go
can-
there
I
and
can
show us if you don't
walk
mind?
right over
Unless you wanna
this.
use this thing.
No, it's easier just to show you. So, there's a manhole that is approximately.
Okay, go to your right a little more so people may,
Sure.
okay. We have a rule? Oh, go ahead.
All right, so the proposal is to construct a small pump that's located here,
Okay,
whereas the small house and the second house would be gravity fed down to the pump would pump up to here, and then across to here, which is about 300 feet. There's a manhole that exists right at the entrance of the driveway. That's where we would connect to. There is a sewer line that's there in that manhole, and that's where the two pipes would connect and then connect to the plant.
now that one that's located there, is that what feeds Paddock Lane?
You know, I couldn't tell you offhand, I'm not 100% sure, but our engineer had indicated that that was the appropriate connection point. And so the board is aware, what we did was, when Mr. Parkman made the application, or when we applied to the health department to legitimize the second septic system on the property, Warren bought in 2000. There were two houses on the property at the time. There was-
Two houses, or was there a house and a garage?
Well, there was a house and a garage, but it was constructed as a house. Warren bought it, it had a kitchen and 3 bedrooms. It was not legitimate, it had a ceiling for an office, and that Warren applied for to legitimize it, even though he was living there. So this house had a septic system in the ground behind the house that was constructed, but not constructed with the health department approval. So,
It was, say it again, missed it.
okay,
The
so
health department,
there's the original house that has an original septic system.
right?
That's considered a non-conforming septic system. It was installed before there were any health department regulations.
Really?
Because that original house was built in the 20s.
Wow.
Okay, so the second house was built in the 90s. It was a garage built as a garage with an apartment above, but not legally constructed as an apartment. That house had a septic system that was installed behind it. In 2010, Warren was issued a violation from the town to indicate that he had an illegal apartment. We started to work on the process. We applied to the planning board for an approval for an accessory apartment.
You know what, come back over here so maybe they can pick up you better, possibly. Now, one other question. Right here, where it's gonna go from here up to there, does Mr. Parkner own that property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first septic system that's associated with the original house is a pre-existing non-conforming septic system. The second one that was built in connection with the garage is illegal. There was no health department approval that was issued for it. In 2010, there was a violation that was issued. We made application to the planning board for an accessory apartment to deal with that second structure. Warren made application to the health department at that time. They had advised us to essentially hang tight. They had an issue with Mr. Sant, who was across the street, across North Brewster Road. To be honest with you, it got away from us. We held off and really didn't do anything until 2015. The building inspector had notified us again. We had an issue, issued an appearance ticket. We applied to the zoning board to obtain variances to legitimize the second structure. Those variances were issued. And in 2010, when we were in the process with the planning board, we went and did some testing on the property to see that it was consistent to handle the two septic systems. At the time it was. In 2015, we went back and did the same thing, and unfortunately, we didn't get the same results in 2015. We don't know why. We don't know what changed around us. It doesn't seem like anything has changed around us, but the area that was suitable for the second septic system had then failed. So what we proposed was should we try to connect to Blackberry? Our engineers had suggested to us that that would be the most logical situation, because in order to obtain or develop a conforming septic system, what we would need to do is bring in a certain amount of fill and have an elevated system on the property. When we looked at what an elevated system would look like, there would be an area around the larger house, which is actually the garage, that would be approximately 3 feet high and a certain dimension. It would look unsightly. It would not conform to anything in the neighborhood. And at that point, we figured with the cost of that system, the design, the development, the purchase of the fill, that was going to be around $40,000 to do that. We figured, you know what, if it's going to cost about the same to construct the line to the Blackberry plant, it would be much better to apply to the board to connect to the Blackberry plant. So we reached out to Levon as the special district administrator to see if the plant had capacity. He had advised us that the plant had sufficient capacity. We had crafted a letter to the town board. This was April, May of last year. Tony had responded to us to indicate that conceptually it may work. However, the board would be reluctant to have an island, a separate parcel that was not contiguous to the plant, be connected. So what we did was, between April and December, was attempt to convince our neighbor, who is the property that is between the Paulkner property. Tony, if you can,
Where is that house?
that house,
That one?
yeah, right there.
Okay.
We had made attempts to try to convince that neighbor to join us in the petition in a petition to the town board to connect, to facilitate contiguity. They have a working septic system. They didn't feel the need to incur any additional costs, so they respectfully declined. We had looked at the boundaries of the Blackberry Sewer District with Levon. I was able to get a copy of the map, and when I looked at the map, it didn't seem like it was going to take too much arm bending to get the system, the configuration, to cover our piece. So we took that, and that was the basis for our submittal to the town board to request that it include the Paulkner property for purposes of septic. And our thought was, for the connection of the two houses to the plant, it didn't seem to make a lot of sense to leave the pre-existing non-conforming system in the ground. We figured, you know what, if we have the two properties, let's connect both. That the original system was put in the 20s. We don't have a lot of information on hand about it. We know that it's close to the wetland, could drain into the wetland, under the ground. We figured, let's get both on the plant. If you had the capacity, it seemed to make a lot of sense. So that was the basis of our request to the town board.
Are you anyone has questions here? Anyone again from the public? Would you come up to the mic if you would, please?
My only question is, I'm just
Rick
curious.
O'Rourke?
Yes, Richard O'Rourke. I'm a resident of the town of
We
Southeast.
see you all the time, but.
And I'm not in favor or opposed. I just have a question. Are you going to be an out-of-district contract, or are you going to amend the special district?
We were asking to amend the boundaries of the district to include the Paulkner property.
Okay, and that is to include the parcel that's actually in between?
No.
Oh, so you're actually going to
We're
sort of...
going to go around it.
Well, they're gonna go in front of along the right-of-way of the town in the road, which they're gonna repair and et cetera.
Okay.
But
so
they're
you're
gonna
amending
skip
the special
over.
district now.
That's right.
Got it. Okay, just curious.
And on that question, the way I'm thinking, if at some point in time, that person, septic fails, has to go into it, I think there should be some kind of compensation to Mr. Paulkner, because if he put the line in, there's gonna have to, I would think, I don't know if that's legal or not, but the fairness of it is, if he said no, and after it goes, oh, I wanna get in, he's gonna have to contribute.
Do you know,
I
sir,
think.
we didn't feel like we were in a position to dictate any terms. That
No,
would be a
but-
fantastic thing, but certainly if they did have to connect, they would get the benefit of the line that was installed by Mr. Paulkner.
Yeah.
But we thank you. We didn't want to dictate any terms.
Well, we're not gonna
We're happy
agree to-
even to just have you even hear our application, so.
You want to put that on the record now? You're not going to look for a future contribution? Okay, I should never ask a lawyer a question. Sorry,
Hey, you know, I don't want to give away Warren's rights. I just want to make sure that we achieve a certain goal, so.
Okay. Levon? This is Levon Bedrosian, Special District Coordinator.
My only comment is, I'd like to sit down with the engineers at one time. Sure. To talk about the pathway you use. I think that manhole cover that you're talking about actually is an outfall, it doesn't go into the headwork, so we didn't talk about that.
And just so the board knows, we based on the letter from April, my advice to Warren was, let's get the petition pending in front of the board. We know that in connection with the extension of a district, the legal requirements are that you have a map, plan, and report prepared by an engineer. What we have submitted to the board is not a map, plan, and report as prepared by an engineer. So what we wanted to do was to get some indication before Warren spent the money on an engineer to develop the actual plan. The plan would include a survey of the Paulkner piece and Scott Place, and would also include construction plans that were prepared by our engineer, who is Bibbo Associates, that are legitimate construction plans that your town engineer would review together with Levon. They would specify precisely where the pipes would be laid, the type of pipe, the size, any disturbance in connection therewith. So for instance, if we trigger speedies or any other permits or approvals in connection therewith, to connect. And so really what we wanted to do was to see the reaction of the board before we knew that we would commit to spend the soft costs that are involved. So that you should be in receipt of a more developed plan that is more precise. What we have showed to you is what would happen, but not with the level of detail that Levon or Tom Fenton would be, is used to seeing.
Now, were you watching faces as you were making the application tonight?
Yeah, I read the tea leaves. That's what I do.
The biggest thing is that the total cost of this is going to be borne by the applicant.
By the
and
applicant, yeah.
And there's plenty of capacity. It was minimal, and, that's my only thought on it. And
I think from
we can't take a straw poll, but at this
No,
point in time-
I'm not asking you to. I think from an equitable perspective, from the residents of Blackberry, if there's capacity, if we pay the equivalent capital fee so that we're on par with every single other resident of Blackberry, and everything else is borne by us, I think it's I don't think we put anybody out. And I think that's the primary goal of the town board, is to make sure that whatever happens is fair to everybody. So.
Right, and we can see if we get any, obviously, there's no comment tonight, but we can see if anyone does write after seeing the public hearing.
Sure.
Yeah, me personally, I don't have a problem with it. As long as there's the capacity, which there is, the expense for hooking up is gonna be borne by the applicant, so it's not gonna be a cost to the district. And it will prevent, hopefully, leaching fields or going into wetlands, which is good for the environment. So I think it's a home run. I don't have a problem with it. But this is just for the sewer district. They will not, it's not for the park district, so they still.
No,
Right.
just the sewer district, and there's a well on the property that serves the two houses, so it would not connect to the water. It's just merely the sewer.
Does this property have its own pool?
Excuse me?
Does this property have its own pool, swimming pool?
I
I thought I saw a little one there. Is there?
It's a temporary sand supply above ground.
Okay, but he has his own pool.
Right.
It's not part of the district, like you're saying.
Right. Well, because people who live in the Blackberry Park District
Right,
have
right, right.
access to
There's
the
a whole other-
Blackberry
yeah.
pool, so
We're-
unfortunately, you still won't have the ability.
Interested in access
Right,
to any-
okay. Just want to make sure you know, that's all.
Yeah, and my only concern, which I'd like to look into, is how this could affect other districts. If it could negatively impact, I don't think it would, but that's something looking towards the future to make sure that other, how do you decide who gets to go in? And that's the only due diligence that I feel is something I would want to do. And that's
Yeah.
why you were staring at me the whole time.
No,
Reading
I-
the tea leaves.
Well, no matter what, it's always going to be on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Someone may make an application if they don't have even close to the capacity or even
Right.
runs them close to the line, it ain't going to happen.
Look, I can, put my town board hat on and think of a million different things.
Don't do that.
That may be concerns. I think if we were not able to come up with a boundary that was something that you were comfortable with, then we would have a significant issue. If we were a mile away,
Right.
and would be an island, I could understand, significant issues that the town board would have if we didn't have that proximity. So, but you know where to get me. If
Yes.
something comes up, just let us know. And it's going to be a big investment by Warren.
Yes,
So
yes.
we just wanted to make sure that we had some idea of the direction we were going in before Warren committed to spending the resources that were needed to do it.
Okay, last call.
Tom have some?
You got more? Lynn? Did you have more?
No, that's
Okay.
what that's what I want to look into.
Hi, good evening. Tom LaPerche, Chairman of the Planning Board. I guess I got a couple of different questions here. I'm thrilled that we're having a dialogue about this never-ending issue that we're hopefully going to bring to conclusion and getting the property legit. My question to Will is that if this is accepted on a residential level, why isn't this allowed for failing septics on Route 22 to connect to sewer plants on a commercial level? Because I'm thrilled to think there's a dialogue going on, and if there's a solution to some of the failing septics on 22, if we're allowing a residential connection, why doesn't that extend to a commercial
Because
entity?
we don't control the commercial
Yeah.
districts.
Yeah, but
They're
I mean,
privately owned systems.
Yeah.
yeah, but the
This is a municipal taxing district.
but aren't
that they're
you? I guess I apologize. Maybe is this not controlled by the New York City DEP in terms of the sewer district, the sewer regulations, in terms of capacity issues?
Yeah, well, it does, but they're.
Yeah, but my point is that if you're extending to one, and I'm hoping that whoever, if this works out, and I hope it does, that the sizing of the pipe allows future failing septics to be accepted, okay?
Well, to
But-
give you a little background on Blackberry in particular.
Okay, thank you.
There were 5 septic systems in Hillcrest, that, I think it was called Hillcrest. Sycamore. That failed about 25 years ago. And by court order, they were allowed to expand the district to include those 5 houses, which were not in the original Blackberry land development. This is really just another extension of that. But you're actually discussing apples and oranges.
Okay.
The transportation corporations that own sewer plants that provide services to, say, the Acme Shopping Center and Clock Tower Commons, they're privately owned. They're not owned by the municipality.
But thank you. I was maybe misspoke. My question is, it's still under the auspices of the DEP in terms of the DEP.
Yes, if one of the
But
units,
Tom, yeah.
if one of the units that you're asking about, say on.
No, I'm just saying,
No,
there's a couple of,
Okay,
Say,
we're
I'm
talking
sorry,
about
excuse
Route 22, okay? If a person wants to connect to an existing one, there's a couple on Route 22, as you're aware of, we won't mention which ones, okay? One person is currently being considered to be connected, okay? They went through the process. If someone wants to make an application to join a private district, all they gotta do is go and ask the person who owns that system. We're not involved with that. And then the DEP gets involved and says, yes, they got the capacity or no, and how much they're gonna pay. It's totally different, and it can be done tomorrow if they choose to do it.
Right.
well, kind of clued me in. You're right. It's obviously apples and oranges, but I just saw this as an opportunity as saying, wow, if it's happening on a residential level, why can't we accommodate a commercial level? But you're right. There's two different
But I think, and
entities.
also you probably were thinking of, because it came to mind for me, although it is commercial, the Value Village system that was being redone, but that was really under the auspices of DEP.
Right.
Remember? So
Right.
that was, you're right about the DEP, but I think it would vary by, we had to get
I think the DEP required them to upgrade their system
Right.
because of the watershed regulation.
Right.
In upgrading their system, they had excess capacity,
Right.
which has allowed them to enter into contractual agreements with neighboring properties
Right.
to serve their septic needs.
Right.
That's an entirely private arrangement between those property owners and the owners of Value Village.
Thank you. I thought there was some excitement here that we might be able to kind of be able to
I can see
solve.
you're excited, Tom.
That to solve some issues, but
those hopes were just dashed.
okay.
Well, when the Danbury sewer line comes.
Yeah.
There you
in,
go.
maybe,
But listen, I
you know.
just want to think that if this happens, and I'm thrilled to think that there's a dialogue here, that pipe is sized in anticipation of hopefully not in failures, but in case there is some other opportunities to bring in some septic set in the neighborhood that might be in jeopardy.
I mean, I think in theory, it'd be ideal to have every property on a sewer system if possible. I mean, that's not possible really in Southeast, but if there's the capacity, that would be ideal. I mean, it's like the
You want
vote.
more special districts?
Well, no, not necessarily, but it's just better for the environment, I believe, but,
We want more county districts.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Will. I didn't know the difference. Thank you.
I'll just say that Warren would gladly accept money to enlarge that pipe.
Anyone else from the public? I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much.
Yvonne, thank you for staying extra late tonight.
We know what we need to do. We'll get it done. And,
Good.
get back to you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, make a motion to go into the work session portion of our meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 1, discussion, amend definition of recreation. Recreation was in our code book, and we've asked to have it upgraded, and here's what the final resolve will be. Now, what we're doing tonight is just discussing this during the portion of the meeting. We're going to send out the intent to be lead agency and different documents to forward to the various agencies. Recreation uses include golf courses and driving ranges, dance, gymnastics, and martial arts studios, indoor health and exercise facilities, tennis, racquetball, pickleball, and squash courts, indoor and outdoor, swimming pools, spas, and splash pads, indoor and outdoor, ice skating rinks, indoor soccer facilities, indoor rock climbing gym, and similar recreation facilities. In all zoning district, recreation uses shall exclude automotive or go-kart tracks, shooting ranges, amusement parks, and any use of archery equipment, guns, weaponry, or similar equipment that may be used to stimulate combat, including equipment that has the capacity to propel projectiles or emit a light and/or laser. In residential zoning districts, recreation uses shall also exclude bowling alleys, billiard parlors, pool halls, and facilities intended primarily for spectator activities such as, but not limited to, stadia and arenas, and any of the above permitted uses with spectator seating for more than 25 people. And at the bottom, there's what they have, small scale, a business occupying less than 15,000 square feet, which for compensation offers indoor recreational activities such as dance studios, martial arts studios, arts and crafts studios, musical or theatrical instruction, children's gyms and play centers, and other places of public or private entertainment. Activity facilities such do not include facilities intended primarily for the spectator activities such as, but not limited to, stadium arenas, automotive or go-kart tracks, bowling alleys, billiard parlors, pool halls, amusement games, video games, skee ball, or similar, or any use of archery equipment, guns, weaponry, or similar equipment that may be used to stimulate combat, including equipment that has the capacity to propel a projectile or emit a light and/or laser. So you have recreation and what they call small scale, and that limit is 15,000 square feet. So the discussion tonight is that, and later on in the meeting, we're going to forward it to various other agencies, declare lead agency. So is there any question on that?
No, I think it's really important to update this. It looks very thorough. I noticed that the old, it's interesting, but shooting ranges weren't permitted even in our old, I know the county is different, but it should be pointed out that they were in our old definition as well. And they are in the new. So I think this is needed, and it's a good idea, and it's much more comprehensive now, which is great.
Any other comment?
This is, I'm assuming, response to the proposed,
No, it was not.
no.
No. It's something we've been thinking about doing for a while,
Yeah.
and we're clarifying the definition.
I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of it, so I'm not saying I'm against it or
Well, no,
for it.
well, we have those planning board meetings down whatever, and it was discussed during that time. And we had to have a better definition of recreation. It was too
Especially
wide
because it's
open.
changing. Well, I mean, recreation does change with, laser tag.
And what one person
so-
considers to be recreational may be another person non-recreational use.
Right.
And also there has to be some kind of protection for people. The biggest thing, and we've heard it numerous times, is people that, you have a barrier, you have an area where you have commercial, and then right next door is the residential. And we're trying to tighten up that gap. There's gonna be maybe further things coming forward where the amount of distance between what one goes into the other to create more of a buffer.
Yeah.
Especially with a small town like ours and it's, you know, kind of wide open.
Right. So I think it's a good improvement. And there will be a public hearing
Yes.
and everything on this, so.
So
we'll
all
get
we're,
to
all we're
public
voting on
hearing.
tonight is.
No, we're
to-
not
No, we're
voting.
not.
This is
Well,
just, this is
the
work
intent.
session.
Okay,
Now, we're gonna vote in a bit to declare lead agency and forward them to the different agencies. We're gonna ask for a public hearing on this
so we're
matter.
not, okay.
And this will be on the
Right, so there'll have to be a
website.
public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we
This is
really
the f-
want input. I do.
This is the
I want
first
in-
step.
Yeah, I would like public input, I think, on this is really important.
Okay. I'm gonna go to number 2 now, amend definition of minor subdivision. Again, down at the work sessions with the planning board. Things have changed out there, and our town planner and our town engineer has made this request to make this more clear. There's a lot of smaller, not smaller lots, but the amount of areas that are seeker and, I guess it's a bigger thing. Let me read it and tell you exactly. Any subdivision containing not more than 4 lots, fronting on an existing street, not involving any new street or road, or the extension of municipal facilities, not adversely affecting the development of a remainder of the parcel or adjoining property, not involving more than 1 acre of disturbance, not require a town's southeast freshwater wetlands permit, except for an activity of minor significance as specified in 78-4H, and not in conflict with any provision or portion of the comprehensive or master plan official map, if such exists, or chapter 138 zoning of this chapter. A proposed subdivision or re-subdivision shall only be classified as a minor subdivision if the sketch plan incorporates all the tract from which lots are proposed to be divided. So, as you know, we have a 4-acre zoning, okay? And sometimes it's the 1-acre ones that, they're not falling through the cracks, but they're asked to do more than they really need to do. So they've asked for this to be done. I don't have a problem with it. And again, we'll be doing that this evening, declare lead agency and put it through public hearing and the necessary steps. All set?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, now, next is the renaming of 102, 106, 107, 108, 109, and 110 Coolidge Drive to Coolidge Way. I'm going to call this up. Okay. Let's see, I'll start with this here. Okay. Back in the 80s, it still is, it's Tenetta Lake Park. It's almost just up the road from where that application was earlier today on the left-hand side. When you go in, there's 2 stone pillars. It was always Tenetta Lake Park. And when you got in, the road names were whatever they were, many, many years, okay? On the right-hand side, when you go in, it's considered Lakeway. Where am I at? Let's see, where am I? Am I right? Yeah. Okay, this here, going around this way. When you come in, you're down over here, you come into the, not golden arches, but 2 stone pillars. You come up and around this way, that's Lakeway. Then from this point here, it turns into Coolidge. No, I don't know what that one is. You know what? I don't know the name of that one. Coolidge, which one is that one? Fairview. Fairview. This is Fairview. But Lakeway comes in, and right about here, it changes to Coolidge Drive, and it goes out toward the pillars again. Okay? Now, when they were renaming these roads, now in the 1980s, Tenetta Lake Park turned these over to the town as town roads. So it came around like this here, and we have a resolution identifying those roads in there. This area right here, okay, going this way, when they were doing 911, that had numerous names over time. I don't have the names in front of me, I could look that quickly, but it had about 4 different names. But when 911 came in, to make it easier for the ambulances and whatever, they named this road Coolidge Drive as well. And the extension of the number, this is number 95, and then it jumped over to across the street, and that became number 107, and then 109, and then on the other side here, they had the even numbers. And that was mainly so If there was an emergency, they know where to go. Now, back about 3 years ago, the assessor and our emergency coordinator for the town said, we should really name this something other than Coolidge Drive because it's not Coolidge Drive. So, the name of the road or private drive, okay, will be considered in the future as Coolidge Way. Their mailing address, where their mailboxes are here, because this is a tiny, tiny little road. Now, some people have said that we've maintained it, that it's a town road. You can see how wide this road is, this one. I mean, that's barely big enough for an oil truck to get in. That was not turned over to the town, has never been a town road, and based on the way that's there, it'll never be. Because when you get in there, there's no way you can turn around. It's a one-way. You're back
It's a
into someone's
common
driveway.
driveway.
Common drive? Is that what
It's
we
a
call it?
common driveway.
What'd I say it was? Private road?
It's a common driveway.
Okay, common drive, officially. So the intent of this here now is to name this as Coolidge Way. The mailboxes are there, okay, and will be considered, so their mailing address will remain the same. And hopefully, so they don't have to go through any expense of changing checkbooks, whatever, and as properties sell, ask them to change it to Coolidge Way. How does that get done officially, Will?
We adopt a resolution.
Okay, I know we're gonna adopt that resolution, but, in the future, when they sell those properties, how does that get done?
How does what get done?
In the future, when these properties sell?
Yeah.
Right now, they have on their deed 106 Coolidge Drive.
Well, the deed usually has a deed description and a tax map number. Doesn't necessarily always have the address. And the fact of the matter is, if this is you're actually creating an official map of the town, and for E911 purposes, designating this common driveway as with a name, and it's called Coolidge Way, so that it can be found by emergency services. That's the sole purpose for it.
Okay, well, the sole purpose originally was Coolidge Drive, but that doesn't match.
Again,
Truly.
that was something done arbitrarily by
Yep.
someone along the way. It was never done by this town board. Back in the 90s, when E911 came into effect, there was a major effort by, I believe Lois Zutel was the supervisor at the time. There was a major effort to name all roadways that had, I think, 2 or more houses that accessed off of it, were given names so that they could be identified for emergency purposes. For some reason, this road, whether it was identified as Coolidge Drive or what, I don't know, but it was never a town road. So it should have been given a separate designation, whether you call it Coolidge Way or Lake Way or some other name, is really immaterial. It's just that it needs to be done and established permanently.
Okay, I'm just trying to see here. Okay, in the past, it's been referred to as Coolidge Drive, Coolidge Parkway, Teneta Lakeway, Lakeway, and Lower Road. That's all the different names it's had over the years. So it's now going to be hopefully considered to be Coolidge Way.
I mean, my only concern is what you mentioned is added, expense to homeowners changing everything.
They will not have to.
But if they won't have to do that, that's fine.
They don't have to do that.
But
And
there would be a public hearing and they would obviously get to weigh in. Right?
is this required?
Is there a public hearing for that or no?
I think we've had public hearings in the past, but one of the concerns here, and to be totally candid, is that there are people that buy homes on these streets and say, well, it's called Coolidge Drive, so it must be a town road. And it never was a town road, it never has been a town road, it's never been maintained by the town. So by formalizing the difference in the name, it certainly puts everybody on notice that this is a common driveway. It is not a town road. We're not going to maintain it.
Are you going to request, is there a need for a public hearing?
Let me just go back and look at my records.
Okay.
But I think that it may not be a bad thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. If I wouldn't want you wouldn't want your road name changed without being able to weigh in on it. So-
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, everyone that lives in that area right there is not probably gonna wanna have it done, and they're the only ones gonna come forward. So
Well-
you can
Right,
expect
it would
all
be right.
no's, and we're gonna have to make a determination.
Okay.
as
But I
we
think
go
if
forward.
they're, know that there's not an expense required with, or time consuming with
Well,
changing.
there is an expense required, because they've been maintaining it for years upon years upon years, and they're still gonna have to do it, so that's. a
No, I
cost.
think what
Right.
Bill
No, no, I meant
Bob's
as
saying
far
is
as
the
change-
expense of changing your checkbooks and
Right.
stuff
No,
like
no,
that.
Right.
But,
No
I
need.
mean, you can
Voter
continue to have
registration.
your address as 106 Coolidge Drive, because the mailboxes, which is really what the addresses are on Coolidge Drive.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and this is just a close-up of where it is, again, there it is, and that's the little Coolidge Way, and it's 102, 6, 8, 10, 9, and 7.
So these people are responsible for paying themselves to
They've
plow
been,
the
they've been,
road.
they've been like that forever. So nothing is gonna
Right.
change other than identify, it, and it's more for emergency purposes, because it's not necessarily Coolidge Drive. And there is confusion, because again, Coolidge Drive is a town road, identified with a green sign with white lettering, and a private drive is to be a white background with green lettering, that's what this would be labeled as. Okay,
There's a question.
is there someone, you just come up to the mic if you would, please?
Christine Piccini, I have absolutely no sway in this at all, and I'm just confused. So that means that if someone says, okay, my address is, because that's what's on their checkbook and has been their address, whatever the number is, Coolidge Drive, and I write it down, and then I go home and I want to Google search it, and I put it in, eventually, that house won't show up when I do a Google search, because that address doesn't have a house attached to it, it has a mailbox
Well, it's a mailing,
attached to it.
there's a mailing address and there's a physical address. Their physical address will be Coolidge Way, and their mailing address will remain the same as Coolidge Drive.
And you anticipate that people will use both of them? I'm just trying to understand
I
how,
don't think the
how,
ma- I
what
don't
the
think the mail-
actuality of it, what the actual implications of the change sorta is, because it's a change that you're proposing,
Because when people buy.
but not really.
Okay, when people buy a home,
Right,
they look up, Coolidge Drive is a town road.
right.
Now, temporarily, what we've done, we put an asterisk next to these numbers, because when they call for a title search or whatever, they say I'm 102 Coolidge Drive, and someone goes down quickly, Coolidge Drive is a town road. However, we've now updated our thing, there's an asterisk there. That is not a town road, and a lot of people want to live on a town road, they don't want to live on a private road.
I understand that. I
Okay.
understand all those aspects of it. I just see it as kind of confusing.
Only in the
And I-
beginning, as
and-
time goes on, 25 years from now, it's Coolidge Way, they can change their mailbox if they want as well. They can, the next property owner can make that change.
Well, see, they
It's
won't
much
be able
easier-
to change
it's
the
for non-
mailbox because
Right.
Postal Service will not
They're
go
not,
down.
they're not going to go down
that.
there.
Right, but the mailbox doesn't, the mailbox, perhaps that's a postal regulation. Does the mailbox need to be on the road?
In this
that
case,
the-
yes.
That the mailbox that's
It
not how
needs
I
to
want
be
to ask the
on a-
question.
It needs to be on a publicly maintained road.
Road.
But it doesn't have to have as its address that road. It represents a house. It is not, the mailbox doesn't have an address. The mailbox is the vessel to receive the mail for an address that exists somewhere, but that's the mailbox for. I'm just speaking to the confusion in this day and age of having, in essence, two different addresses for the same property.
can probably-
That happens a lot,
The physical address of where the house is, and then the address that's associated with the mailbox sitting on the road, which is just a vessel.
There are
Right.
There are people in Patterson that have Brewster addresses, but they live in the town of Patterson. On the other side of town, we have people with Carmel addresses, that was it.
But that's the town,
Hunter's Lane.
that's not the specific house. That's all I'm talking about. The specific house address will in actuality be, is the word bifurcated, because they have the house address and they have the mailbox address.
I don't think it's that uncommon with, especially because we
There's
have a lot of.
post office addresses or
I mean, we have a lot of private roads that, where the mailbox sits on 312 say, but they probably use, you know, it's up to the owner.
Is 312 their address then for their mail?
I don't think necessarily it is. I think that people go by whatever, kind of
That,
what they
I
want.
guess, I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
I
when
think
you're on
that's true.
312 and you make a left onto
Yeah.
312, and you go just before the reservoir, there's a
Mm-hmm.
development, not a development, but a houses up on the right-hand side. All their mailboxes are along 312. I believe they're a 312 address that, for the mailbox, but they live up on top of that hill, and I don't know what that's called.
It does have a name, and there are other places. I think it kind
So,
of is up to
so
the-
you're saying the opposite of what Lynn just said?
No, I think it varies. I think people, it's for 911, so 911 is
Right.
the priority here. How the people handle it is more up to them. How they, if they want to change their checks and have it Coolidge Way, they can do that. And I'm quite sure that the mail will get delivered there.
I'm just, I mean, to kind of to piggyback on what you said, so let's say my, you know, phone bill comes from my residential phone, and it's addressed to the Coolidge Drive.
Right.
But you know, so if you call 911 and it comes up on the screen, will it say Coolidge Drive or will it say Coolidge Way? And would the arriving emergency services be confused then? I don't know. And I know in Putnam Lake, I know some people live there, it's kind of confusing there. There's people that have a house that actually has two different street addresses, because I guess the houses were, you know, built when it was the summer bungalows, but, they actually have two different street names for the same house, you know, two different addresses or whatever, so.
I'm
I don't know.
just talking about my immediate,
Right.
I mean, I know nothing about this prior to this, hearing it just tonight, that what it sounded like was a plan to refine and make clear something that, to me, just muddied the waters a lot. I understand if you change everything to Coolidge Way, I understand that that means that people who still use checks would have to change their name on their checkbook, and they'd have to notify their credit card company that their new address is thus and such, as if they were moving. But it's a single action.
It's not uncommon.
But I know
I'm
we also
surprised to
have
hear that.
streets like State Line Road off of Milltown. It's a town street, but then there's a sign at some point it becomes a private street. I think those houses just continue on. I don't think there's any, you know, the street name doesn't change, it's just, and
So-
actually the mailboxes, I know if you go to the end of State Line there, because the post office truck doesn't go past there.
So let's go to the other reason now that we're looking at is, if you're Coolidge Drive, and it's a town road, that is not a town road. So that's why that has to get changed. It's not a town road.
I have no problem with you changing it. I think changing it is perfectly fine. I'm questioning.
There will be confusion in the beginning. but
I'm
25
questioning why do something that creates confusion instead of making a clean
it's gotta
change and
No,
what
that
I
is a
heard
clean
is the
change.
reason.
Well, we can ask the post office what they would decide,
Yeah.
because they're gonna be the ultimate one, because they deliver to that number. The numbers are not changing, only drive to way on those 5, 6 parcels and 3 houses.
All I was sharing was that it seemed very confusing when it seemed to be something that was planned to make things simple and precise for emergency services. That's all.
It will be. Hopefully. Okay, so we want to have a public hearing, I'm gonna,
Set a public hearing.
yeah,
I
but for the
wouldn't do it
meeting
on
after the
February
next one,
2nd.
the 2nd and the 16th will be the next one?
The 16th, because we won't be able to
Yep.
get in the paper for the
Public
2nd.
hearing. Coolidge. I'll put that on the agenda tonight. Okay. Next thing is renaming Fortune Ridge street name Valley View Lane to Stable View Lane. Now, there's not going to be any confusion here because there's no houses there yet. Is that correct? What it is, I believe the county has requested, since there are other similar names in town, that they don't want any confusion what's going on there. So Fortune Ridge will change from Valley View Lane to Stable View Lane because they have a view of the stable. How's that sound? But there are others. You want to come up to the mic and just let us know?
But if there's nobody there, there's no issue.
There's no one there,
Right,
yeah. Although these,
No checkbooks
yeah.
involved.
Just for clarification purposes, And the most important thing is there are no homes on this. This is a road where in the future we hope to have homes. So quite frankly, it's just to clear up what might possibly be some 911 confusion because of similar names. Lori Bell, Ken Clare, Chris Munch and I met, discussed the issue, and clearly we just want to clear this up because we have to clear up our internal documents, title work and that type of thing. And this is something that I believe not only Ms. Bell, but Mr. Clare have agreed, which is fine with them. And I would just respectfully request, you don't need a public hearing because I'm the only person that will show up. I'm just going to tell you the same thing, so.
No, but the other ones, again, no one wants a change, a name change. There is confusion.
Yeah, but we're,
But
obviously.
when 911 first went in, that's when they should have done it right then and there, and it didn't happen. They decided to name that road something other than what it really was and give it numbers, back in 911 days.
There are really a lot of names
Well,
like that.
I'm just going to leave it alone because there might have, let's just say there might have been, there's a saying we use sometimes in the practice of law office failure. This was not law office failure. This is just an administrative vacuum that, for whatever reason, and it predates Kenny Clare.
So when you did that subdivision, Rick, was there not a name, a road name assigned to that particular?
Yes, and that's the name we're changing.
And it's because it is too closely similar to other roads in the town of Southeast, or?
Not town of Southeast.
The county
They're
generated this request.
Okay.
The request came from the county. It wasn't from us. It wasn't from anyone.
When you start looking at road names, though, with the town of Southeast, like we have a Maple Road, we got Maple Drives, I know there's other towns that have the same thing, so this is kind of strange, but they requested it.
It
It's
is
a simple thing to do, and we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's because originally it overlooked a valley because it was open space, and now it overlooks a stable.
Not quite.
Am I right, or am I
No,
right?
no.
Well, there's a little stable,
Right?
but there's still 110 acres,
I know.
210 acres of open space.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, there's nobody there, so that's
Okay.
fine.
they'll be on the next agenda, Rick.
But it's true.
Okay, make a motion to go into regular meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let me just get myself squared away here. This. Okay. Waive the reading of the correspondence. 2, approval of the voucher list, $1,048,423.93. So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Setting of the meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, February 2nd, 2017. We will also set tonight a public hearing for recreation definition and set the public hearing for minor subdivision definition. And Thursday, February 16, 2017, and also set a public hearing for Coolidge Way. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfers, because of the time of the year, going from 2016 to 17, there are none to report this time. Number 5 is a motion to award the 2017 lawn maintenance service contract to La Tija. Edwin, help me on this. How would you say that? Teja Construction and Landscaping.
And that's the company that has it now, right?
That currently
Yeah,
has
they're
it
doing a
now.
good job.
The services went up a little bit, but they still came in as the lowest bidder.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a resolution filling the unexpired term to 12/31 to the planning board. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby appoints Eric Larka, L-A-R-C-A, who has been duly recommended and deemed qualified to fill an unexpired term on the Southeast Planning Board to expire December 31, 2021, and be further resolved that the appointment shall take effect immediately upon taking and filing the appropriate oath of office. The aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. So moved for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Can I just say, I would like to say that we really had some terrific applicants, which was, is a wonderful thing. So I'd like to thank all the applicants, and now we can vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 7, it's a resolution to declare lead agency to amend the recreation definition. Now therefore be resolved that the pursuant to 617.6B1 of the State Environmental Review Act, the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby declares itself lead agency for the purpose of seeker for this type 1 action. So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8. It's a motion to declare a negative declaration on seeker to amend recreation definition.
Second.
So, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a motion for the referral to the Southeast Planning Board to amend the recreation definition. So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 11, resolution to declare lead agency to amend minor subdivision definition. Now therefore be resolved that pursuant to 617.6B1 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby declares itself lead agency for the purpose of seeker for the unlisted action. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
12, it's a motion to declare negative deck on seeker to amend minor subdivision definition. So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. 13, a motion, GML referral to Putnam County, amend minor subdivision definition. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 14 is a motion to referral to the Southeast Planning Board, amend minor subdivision definition. So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 15, financial report. There's really nothing to report. We're into the first month. Everything looks really good so far.
Just started.
So,
You just started the.
I know, that's why it's really good. Hopefully we'll get the books completely finished by sometime in February to see how we ended up the year. And probably by May, I have anything of substance to report on the budget. Other than that, I have nothing else. Public comment. Former legislator, Mr. Gross, welcome back to public life.
Good evening. I'm unemployed, but I'm here, not here for a job. Last evening, the Chamber of Commerce met, and I wanted to thank Councilman Alvarez and Tom LaPerche of the Planning Board were there, and they gave an overview of the projects that are now going forward and some things that are planned, and it was very informative, and I can speak for all the attendees and say it was really much appreciated. So thanks, Edwin. Appreciate it. On another matter, I noticed in the snowstorms we've had, brine is being used on the roads. There's the white trails along the highways. And I was wondering if any review was done on the acidity of that stuff. It's deadly to automobiles. It rusts cars out. It's very bad. And I'm wondering about the water table and about the swamps as this stuff washes away with the rain. How toxic it really is. That was my concern.
Well, the toxicity has been the same for many, many years, because with salt, as you know, they were putting down salt and sand mix, sometimes with just salt. I don't know if it's any more potent mixed. I don't know that, but it's an acceptable practice by the DEC, DEP, New York State. So I would imagine someone looked into it, and it has to meet the same standard was there before. I don't think they'd allow something that would be worse.
The Automobile Association of America is against it.
Is it? Well, for people that have nice cars, of course. That's why when we buy our trucks, on a list from down in Virginia, whatever, we buy them because there's absolutely no rust on them. They may be like 3, 4, 5 years old, and they're like brand spanking new when we buy them. So we're buying a lot of our vehicles down in Virginia at these days.
I was informed that brine's pretty bad for automobiles. It rusts out frames and all.
You
I
know
know
that?
the highway department, I've seen some of the back of these trucks.
Oh.
The salt has just eaten them out. I'm sure you've seen it as well. I just wanted to bring it up as a concern because this is I think the second year we've seen that. It hasn't been around. We used to use sand and other
Well, they
items.
still
But I
do,
don't- yeah,
but brine is a preventer, and it supposedly works better. I don't know how it works that it's better, but it seems to work better. And you notice I don't drive my car in the winter?
I think
Keep
what
it
it does is that if it's pre-coated the roads, it prevents it from
Build up and all.
building up
Yeah.
quicker than, depending on how much snow it is, but that's the idea. But you are right, though, it is bad for cars. That's why they do recommend you frequently wash your cars during
Right.
the winter and stuff. But,
Just thought I'd mention it. Okay. Thanks very much.
If you buy a new car, don't drive it home from Florida.
yeah, sure.
Any other public comment? Town board members?
I would just like to say, we met this morning, Bob and I, with Victoria to go over the website, and I won't bore you with all the statistics, but I thought it was really good news. We seem to be, as they say, in the Goldilocks zone, and we're doing well. We've gotten almost 28,000 hits since May, but Bob might want to speak to, I think, part of this as far as we really would like to increase, we want people to rely on it. And we do have some thoughts about that, but I think you want to talk about signups and things, or?
Right, now we only have right now 64 people, I believe, that are signed up on our website to get news and announcements. We'd like to be able to put stuff out more, quicker, if there's some sort of emergency or road closure, but there's only 64 people getting it. It's, it's not really getting the word out. So if anyone's watching this at home, it's very easy. You go to our website, just type in your email address, and you'll be submitted automatically to getting any news and announcements. We are talking about maybe we have to speak to Tony, not sure the expense, but the company that we use for the website does actually have an app that you can download from Google or I guess iTunes, which would be free, but the town would have an expense, but it would also allow quicker access to the website, and also would allow you to get a automatic news alert if we put something out. So it's something we'll think about.
It's also, I found, because I like getting agendas just through the website, and so you really can pick and choose. It's great. So you can get just the planning board agenda, or just this, and or all of them. So it's, I think that part's really user-friendly.
And if you live in a special district, they're broken down. We did put an email out about, what district was it? Seven Oaks, I believe. They were having a water interruption, which never happened, but I guess it was supposed to happen. That way you can find out if there's going to be some sort of issue with your water system beforehand.
Yeah,
But we-
especially anyone in a special district should really
Right.
sign
Yeah.
up for this.
Yeah.
And again, as bad as 64 sounds, when we had New York Alert, it's 5 times greater now than it was then.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll keep working on it, and
And the biggest hit of our town website pages is the recreation department, followed by the receiver of taxes, and then I believe the assessor's office, if I remember correctly.
yeah, no, then there was one ahead of rec, and I can't remember what that
Wasn't it?
was, but yeah, there was
Yeah,
one, yeah.
but, so that's what most people are interested on, and we are looking into maybe seeing if we can expand our website, so like for recreation programs, you could actually register your children or whoever for a program online and actually submit credit card information automatically, which would, now currently you can't do it. So we do take credit cards, but you have to either call in the number or go to the recreation department for them to swipe your card. So it's a work in progress.
Yes, and I think it's really impressive that the departments are really, a lot of them are trying to work and make it as user-friendly as possible, and I think they should all be commended for that. We have some work to do still, but I think it's gone really well since it's really only a little over 6 months old.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Who's second?
Also.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.